This episode of Future Construct is supported by Applied Software. We would like to thank them so much for supporting us. Applied Software is really on a mission to transform industries. They empower their clients and champion innovation with real-world expert consultants. So to reach them, you go to asti.com, that's ASTI.com, and please tell them that we at Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Future Construct podcast. I'm your host, Amy Peck. Today we have Randee Herrin, who is the Senior Vice President of Construction Technologies and Manufacturing at TDIndustries. Welcome, Randee.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Just an honor. Thanks.
So I was reading a bit about your background. So you actually have been with the company for a while now, and you started as a project manager and you've kind of risen through the ranks. So I'd love to hear a little bit about just, actually even how you got into this industry, but then, a little more about your role at TDIndustries.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it is Women in Construction Week this week, actually, as well. But, I come from a family of contractors. My father is a general contractor. And so, it's just like when you leave high school at 18, you're expected to go find your way in life and know exactly what you want to do. And I had a little bit of trouble with that when I first started out. When I went to college, I went to Texas A&M and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do my freshman year. And so I spent a little bit of time with the different departments of the university and colleges, and I found the Department of Construction Science. And so went and talked to the dean, told them what I was interested in, and they were very, very welcoming. The school was pretty small back then, and I was just one of a few women. But I really liked being in the smaller class environment, the closeness of the school. And so got my degree in that. And then I graduated and just thought, well, it's just going to be easy to get a job. But I didn't realize that I was a little bit different than the people that most construction companies typically hire. So it took a little bit, and which I'm glad that it did, because, it took a special company to, I guess, at what some might have thought was taking a bet on me, 25 years ago, a young woman coming into the construction industry. But TDIndustries is a very progressive company, very diverse company. They value individual differences. It's one of the core values. And so I found a nice soft place to land at TD and started as an assistant project manager and started getting some jobs under my belt, and just kind of from there, project manager, senior project manager. And then eventually I was running what we call our new construction business in Houston. And so that new construction business consisted of all of the pre-construction, the estimators, all of the project management team, the field, and our draftsmen and women, our BIM designers. And so I was over the Houston construction for quite some time. I can't remember exactly how many years. And then I just got to a point where I thought, the future of construction is going to be different than the past has been. And I'm seeing a lot of value in prefabrication. And I'm seeing a lot of value in the model, the BIM model and model-led workflows into manufacturing. And so I asked our CEO if I could transition and be over our manufacturing groups and our VDC or BIM groups, and then also grew a construction technology team. So very fortunate that I've been with such a great company that's really let me grow and is willing to take a bet on my future vision too.
I love that story, and I love the fact that you brought up that you were a little bit different than
Right.
Sort of the normal employee, and I think that is slowly changing. But certainly at the beginning of your career, it was a very different landscape. Have you had some challenges? Do you feel like you had to sort of prove yourself, especially with some of the field teams that I'm sure you were interfacing with, especially early in your career?
Yeah. I've always found that the field to be a whole lot more embracing than some of the corporate side. I've had some interesting experiences. I've had some people that weren't very friendly and very nice, but I kind of always thought and seen those as challenges. Like, what can I do to win them over? Kind of like the obstacle is the way, right? It's like, what bias do they have in their life that's causing them to have that reaction? And how can I help teach them something different? How can, out of the relationship they have with me, how can they treat other people different in the future? Because now they've got a new normal, right? So, I mean, yeah, there's been some really interesting things along the way, but I think it's helped others grow and it's helped me grow. And I think I'm better off for it. Not everything in life is going to be super easy and you just walk in and everybody just opens doors for you. And I think that rough road sometimes makes you even better in the long run. And so I'm just grateful for it. And the construction industry is, despite just the few instances of strange things that I've had to deal with throughout, I'd say it's a very, very welcoming industry. And I'm so in awe and inspired by the young women and women that I see in the industry now. I used to be the only one in the room, and I'm no longer the only one in the room. I'm really surrounded, and it's such a great feeling. And it's been tremendous over the past few years to really build that network of women that I didn't have early in my career. When times change and you can't have your normally scheduled meetings and everybody's moving to video and you just don't get to see your connections as much. I didn't realize it, but I really missed them. When we do have the opportunity to get together now, it's really nice, and just to have that network of women that I didn't have early in the career. So it's something that I would encourage young women in the industry to do, is find your network, find your group, and just to have a group to bounce things off of and help you know that you're on the right path. That goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think for companies as well, it is the path forward. It is the way to kind of bring in more opportunity and to have different perspectives to help sort of push technology forward. I mean, there's so much technology coming now, and you saw that a while ago and decided to kind of switch your focus. So what are some of the ways in which you think technology has improved processes, that you've actually seen implemented successfully?
Yeah, technology. I am so excited. I feel like we're in the renaissance of construction right now, as far as technology is concerned. And, it's like you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody wants to use it, how good is it and what value is it? And so part of the thing that you talked about just a minute ago is, change. A lot of change is coming up, right? And change takes brave leaders and courageous cultures, right? And so what do we need to do to look at our organization and say, are we courageous enough with our culture? Are we brave enough with our leaders to really embrace this change? Because it's transformative, right? So instead of resisting and trying to do things the way we've always done, how can we open up that culture and really embrace this change so that we can fully leverage technology? Because there's a lot coming. One of the things that I'm the most excited about right now is really something that we at TDIndustries have been working on for the last couple of years within our construction technology and pre-construction teams, is establishing a database of all of the parts and pieces that we utilize to fabricate our mechanical and plumbing systems. And so just by having that basis, that database, that single source of truth that we can take from estimating to the model to fabrication, is just tremendous. And for the first time ever, construction is a very, I'm going to say, a dirty business, not from the physical work, but from the data perspective. We've never had clean data before. We've estimated a job and we've executed on a job, but making the two match and say, did we really build what we estimated, has always been really, really hard. And so having those fundamental building blocks like the database, a transition to Revit across all of our VDC centers of excellence, and then, we've joined forces with Stratus now to manage the workflows from the model into manufacturing. And so just having that infrastructure there so that now we're going to be able to get data so that people can make good decisions moving forward about material types, being able to make predictive or have data that's predictive that can help you make the best decisions is just so fundamentally amazing right now in construction, because we've just struggled and needed it for so long. So it's exciting to finally start to walk up this staircase.
I would like to thank the team at Applied Software for supporting this episode of the Future Construct podcast. With solutions for really any modern project, Applied Software is on a mission to transform industries by empowering their clients and being the champions of innovation with real-world expert consultants. They have a comprehensive array of solutions for AEC, MEP, and manufacturing with a singular focus, helping you achieve higher performance. So with software, training, support, consulting, and custom development, Applied Software has you covered for all of your workflow needs. And BIM Designs is proud to be a client and partner of Applied Software. So you can reach them at asti.com, it's ASTI.com, and please let them know that we here at Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. You mentioned prefab, and that seems to be taking hold and more and more. And so, what are again some of the ways that companies should be thinking about leveraging this opportunity to build offsite, build in efficiencies, and then what efficiencies is that affording some of the companies that you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. The construction industry is such a risky business. There's so many unknowns. Your scope isn't always clearly defined. You're making big bets constantly. And so how do you de-risk that? You have job sites that can have hundreds of people on them at a time, and all of your risk is tied up in the labor on the project. So de-risking is how can you use your labor in a more effective way? How can you move man hours off of the job site and into manufacturing where you have a more controlled environment and you can be more productive? And then, it's not doing more with less, it's doing more effectively, using that talent, that amazing talent that you have in the field, to use their intellect to think through the assembly, to think through the design, to think through, how can we make this the most effective, most safe project, and relocate some of those man hours into manufacturing for the pure productivity, the installation, the assembly and the quality control of your fabricated parts and pieces. And so, the previous 15 years of construction is going to be nothing like the next 15 years of construction. Everybody's really saying, this is a risky business. We've been in it for a long time. What can we do to change that, to increase certainty in cost and certainty in schedule? And that comes from prefabrication. So the conversation years ago used to never be that I would have with our general contractor partners would never be about prefabrication. We have always prefabbed. We've had a manufacturing shop for about 40 years. We've always found value in that. But I can say as systems integrator, as a general contractor for the job, they haven't historically been as concerned with that. The conversation has changed now, and it's changed because owners want their projects delivered in a different way. They want more certainty in cost and they want more certainty in schedule. So as they're beginning to ask for a different product to be delivered, the general contractors are starting to change their language and really leaning into those contractors that fabricate, which is really exciting because that's something that we're really good at. Right. And so I'm looking forward to really, even going, love our general contractor partners and continue to work with them, but also continue and work with more of the owner side, especially those serial owners that build all over the world, all over the nation. How can you work with them to productize their buildings, right? A lot of times they're building the same type of facility over and over and over again. Well, how can we engineer and manufacture products like Lego blocks that they can use in each building that we can build, that they can have consistency and quality, and we can ship it to their job site to be assembled? So it's kind of like an awakening and a new way to leverage fabrication That's not just the traditional delivery methods, but also having those owners get involved, which is really exciting. And to make all of that work, you really need the technology infrastructure, right? It's all about the model. The future is about the BIM model and maximizing what you can get out of it. All of the data, all of our database that we design in our models is what we actually procure, we purchase, and go straight into manufacturing. So, it's just that technology infrastructure and that backbone is essential for what we're trying to do with manufacturing.
So yeah, and I love that you brought up the data piece, because it's something that, not everyone really talks about, and how challenging it's been to actually, kind of match what you set out to build and then get to as built, and then kind of, connect the dots. And so with BIM data, I certainly see a lot of different opportunities in terms of, kind of building management lifecycle, even beyond, once a building is operational. But how have you seen BIM sort of change in the last, several years? And then how do you feel it's going to expand in the future, and how we're going to be able to leverage BIM data?
Well, the main way that I've seen it change, maybe like over the last 10 years, is that previously it was, we're just going to model this for coordination purposes. We just want to make sure you don't hit each other in the field. Well, now we're all growing up and getting more sophisticated, and we're not just coordinating to make sure we don't hit each other. We're coordinating because we're going to actually build this model. We have one of our guys on our survey team actually came up with a hashtag that we're saying all the time now, but a hashtag build the model. It's not there just to look at in a BIM coordination meeting. It's there to actually build off of, and then be your as-builts as well. So, I'd say that's like the biggest change. And just also the other thing I can think about is just the voice of the BIM designer, right? It was always project team, project manager, superintendent making a lot of the decisions. I'm seeing that starting to shift to the engineering and expertise of the BIM designer to say, what's the most cost-effective way that we can model this? How can we put this into an assembly? How can we do multi-trade racks? How can we, and just like pushing the limits of the efficiency, the cost efficiency, and the time in manufacturing and the time of assembly. And that BIM designer is making a lot of those decisions now, where it used to be the superintendent, right? So it's kind of we're all in there. Still it all takes the team. It takes the superintendent and the project manager and the BIM designer, but the BIM designer is a whole lot more involved than they used to be.
And so looking at the sort of plethora of emerging technology now, AR, VR, blockchain, AI, are you starting to look at that? I mean, it's interesting because there's been so much complexity in the evolution of the construction industry over, if you even mentioned just over the last decade even. But then you have all this emerging technology that's kind of coming. And there are, pockets of solutions around each of those. But I'd love to hear where you think some of this is going, and some opportunities to bring in these emerging technologies into sort of construction workflows.
Yeah, the emerging technologies that I'm really looking into right now are on the installation side, right? Like on the survey side, what's different out there with robots or different types of technology to actually install the model that's being drawn. So that's where I've been spending some time. And then also, like I talked about earlier, the technologies of model to manufacture. Once we get all of that data flow going and we're really successful with our model to manufacture, then how can we look at different technologies within manufacturing to increase the productivity of the way we manufacture? Because we're still creating custom systems, not all the time, but those custom systems that we're creating right now, we're saying how can we productize, and how can we understand that we've got certain products that we can put together to make this custom system, right? And so once you start getting into that productization, you really do start to get into more of a pure manufacturing mode, which is efficiencies through robotics, which is just really exciting, what that can do. And then, also just looking at from the field perspective on, now they've got this great model that's gone through manufacturing, and we've built the parts and pieces they need to have to assemble on site. What technology can we look at to make it easier for them to lay out in the field, for them to visualize how the product is to be installed? Those are different things that we're looking at right now.
And have you found some technology? I mean, it's you hit the nail on the head. I think that so much is custom, and you're building kind of these bespoke systems.
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding that there are companies out there that are building more kind of, I say off the shelf? There's always some customization, but more off the shelf utility, or are you seeing that you're just having to completely blaze a trail?
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of both. There's some amazing companies out there that are finding this way, right? But it's blazing that trail. And I hear Amy Marks with Autodesk speak frequently. She's their head of industrialized construction, or evangelist for industrialized construction, I think. And she always says we need to stop building snowflakes, right? So it's kind of on the industry to say, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep engineering this customization in? Why can't we come together and design some standard building blocks for our system, right? And so I think it's going to take a lot of people, with the aid of technology, the riskiness of construction, right, to say, how do we want to change this industry for the future? And we're starting to see that right now, which is what I love, which is why I said, I've been in this business for over 25 years. And I'm going to leave the pure construction side of it and make a switch to the manufacturing and technology side, because I see that vision, and that's what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of the future of construction.
Yeah, we actually had Amy on the podcast earlier this year, and she was very outspoken, and I think evangelist is the perfect title for her, because she's not just out there promoting it, but she's saying, look, this is sort of the path forward, and this is building efficiencies that are tremendous for companies. And so let's pay attention, let's standardize, and let's galvanize. And so I guess my question to you is, do you find that as an industry that the competitive advantage, sort of outweighs the notion of, working together even as competitors to propel the industry forward? I mean, where do you think the industry sort of lands on the competitive landscape?
That is tough, because the industry is really competitive. Everybody tries to keep their secrets, right? And I think what the future isn't as many secrets that I want to keep inside. It's who am I going to partner with that thinks like me, that we can scale, right? So, how, especially with the owner direct model, how can I keep this team together? How can I build the mechanical and plumbing systems, but maybe can I partner with an electrician to add something to this skid that I'm building, or rack that I'm building, or, and it's teaming up with different subs and different owners, and maybe even different general contractors, to produce something that's repeatable. So I'd say, the individual competition on, a new job the standard way, it's out on the street, it's there to bid. I think that competition is still going to stay pretty strong, because I think there's a lot of amazing construction companies out there that, need to continue to add to their backlog. But I think that people are going to seek out experts, or seek out those future thinkers that are doing things different, to say, how can I partner with you so I can produce a product in a different way that we can sell, right?
So, it sounds like you're sort of, you're part, project, you're part technology, visionary, but then there's the practical component, right? So you've now envisioned a new way forward, I guess you're part R&D. How hard is it within your company to really bring about sort of a new process or a new system? Is that a long life cycle? Or are you finding now that you've started to introduce newer technologies that it's a little bit easier to sort of push a new process through?
Yeah, I kind of think about it like design thinking, or value proposition. How can with the technology, with the BIM model, with manufacturing, can I solve problems for my internal customers? That would be my construction project teams, right? How can what is their pain every day, and what are the gains that I could create to erase those pains? And coming from the construction side, I have a lot of that deep empathy built in of 25 years of living in that pain, so I can look at things and say, how can I design a product or a solution to help them, right? And I think that once you design the perfect product for somebody, they let go of those, I don't know about this, I'm not too sure, I got to do it my old way. So it's like, how can I personally solve those for them, right? And so I think when you approach things from just that design thinking perspective, really dig deep with some customer discovery if you don't already have the empathy to understand what they go through every day. What is it like arriving on a job site super early, freezing cold, working hard all day? What is that like? How could I make that easier for them, right? And so that's just the way I kind of approach it when we look at technology or just a manufacturing product or anything.
Well, I think you touch on, going back to sort of women in the industry, I think it's that kind of thinking that sort of, empathetic, sort of looking for understanding, whether it be someone, kind of being adversarial, or whether it's, kind of your overall notion that, okay, I'm going to fix some issues. I think having that perspective and being able
Yeah.
to walk in somebody's shoes, I think is such an important component of business going forward, but it's something we don't really talk about that much because it can all, it's like, then it touches on emotional, and then it touches on, well, then that's, not a business trait that we're after. But I applaud you for using that and using it to your advantage and using it to the best advantage of the company, because it's a difficult line to walk, I think.
Yeah. And it gets back to your mindset too. There's an obstacle. I feel like I can provide a solution, but that solution might not be, people don't like change, right? Like, how do you tip an idea within an organization? And to just really look at it as it's my job to show the value, not their job to figure out the value, right? And so it's just a mindset.
So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone, and it's really about the future and how we get there. But this is more personal. It doesn't have to be based in reality. So if you could, project yourself 20, 25 years in the future, and you could just, bring a gadget or just sort of divine, something to bring with you that would just make your life better, make you personally happy, what would it be and what would it do?
Yeah. As my mind is always in the future. I'm always thinking about what's happening next. And so sometimes I fall short on the what's happening right now that need, and so I need somebody to take care of me, right? I need a device or a gadget that is like a personal concierge. And I know that we have those already, but I'm like next level personal concierge, right? Like, so I'm vegan. Health is really important to me. Optimizing what I eat, when I eat, that's so complicated. That takes so much time to figure out. I would love something that can monitor the health of my body and tell me what I need to eat and when. Because it's just so much work. When you're really thinking about the future and you have this great vision and you're working with tremendous and wonderful people, then you have to take care of yourself. And it's really, really important. Your health is so important. And we're all going to live longer, and we need to live long, healthy lives. And so really taking care of myself and having some assistance with that on like a level where it's not just a best practice, but knowing physically what my body needs. I think that that's something, and beyond just the overall health and taking care and making sure I eat when I'm supposed to eat and what I'm supposed to eat, just somebody to just handle the details of life, because I'd rather work on the relationships that really matter than figuring out when I need to take my cleaning or how to get it picked up, or that's just all of that life stuff is, I think, what I would like to have help on.
That's really coming. Actually, I'll send you some there's some very interesting digital therapeutics. There's one that's like a little tattoo that monitors your kind of, statistics, your bodily vitals.
Yeah, love it.
If you're, dehydrated, exactly what you're talking about, when you need to eat. And then I think like an adorable little robot that just kind of does
Right.
that fixes you the sandwich and brings it
Right.
to
Or even something in my glasses when I have to go to the grocery store, I
well,
try
yeah,
to eat Whole Foods
the right
plant-based,
shopping
right?
list.
But if I'm looking at a product, they're like, no, don't get that one. There's some bad stuff in it. That would be
Yeah,
fantastic.
I love that. Because they're trying to look at ingredients. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's a
So,
lot of work, right? I just need some
Apple,
help.
if you're listening when the glasses come out, we need this functionality.
Yeah.
Well, Randee, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much
Sure.
for joining us. And are there any sort of final words of advice that you can give our listeners today?
I guess if I sit down and think about advice is, be brave and follow your vision, right? Um, People will want to be a part of it, but don't be afraid not to try. Be courageous and brave, and there's a chance that the vision that you have, others will want to follow.
Oh, that's great. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure. It was a pleasure. Thank you.